All right, as mentioned yesterday, we're going to go through an exercise right now. And I said this to you yesterday, but if you would please go out to this website. I think you just need the Atlassian.com/git/tutorials. I don't believe this is necessary, but it may be. I don't know. If you do go out to this site, what you're going to see is this. As you can see, it's got Atlassian BitBucket tutorials. Now, we're going to go through one of these tutorials right now. If you decide, I'd like to learn more about Git, etc., find out what it is, etc., this is a really great place to start. Notice there's beginner, there's learning Git, and there's other stuff too. All right, I'm not going to sit and read them to you. But the one that we're going to look at is this learn about code review in BitBucket Cloud. All right, or it's learn Git with BitBucket Cloud. That one, if you do want to follow along with me, if you don't, you don't. But if you do, that's right here, and you just have to go to learn Git with BitBucket Cloud. All right. If you were to take the time to print that out, it's about 25 pages long, but what you're going to find in here is a lot of it is pictures. It says, now we're going to do this, and it shows you a picture of what it is they're about to do. All right? All that makes sense? All right. The other thing I want to mention, if you would all just for a second, please look up here. Yesterday I sent you a URL to my playlist for this class, and just so you know, I've already gone through this. I think I said this to you yesterday, but I did it as a 4-part series. So if you think I went through it too fast, or you don't get it, or whatever, you can always go back there and take a look at it. I am taping this right now, so it's, it says taped, but I'm going to probably put live in front of this. I don't know how long it's going to take us to go through this. All right, I'm not at all in any hurry. If it takes till 10, it takes till 10. My hope is it's somewhere closer to 9 or 9:30. All right. One more thing, and I know I had mentioned this to you before, but again, I'm going to say it again. You don't have to go here, but I just want to show you this. I mentioned that there was a really good tutorial out there on Code Academy for learning Git. For whatever reason, they've changed it. And it used to be, you saw the little Git mascot logo, and you went through a bunch of stuff. Now it starts with, you're working with Harry Potter. And I don't know why they did that, but they did that. But that is still one of the top ones that come out there as far as learning Git. So if you wanted to see that, you could see that. All right. And finally, the last thing I want to say is, because this happened to me, all right, that sooner or later you may forget your password for BitBucket. How do I know that? Because that's what happened to me the other day. All right. And all I did was just Google it, as you'd guess, and they go through the steps on there. So if you do forget it or whatever, it's no big thing. All right. So again, what I'd like all of us to please do is to go out to bitbucket.org. And again, I've already done mine. I've called it class demo. We're not going to do it. We're going to follow all the steps that they have in this handout. It's, again, I apologize for it in that it's a little goofy. They say you're going to be the administrator of a space station. Why they say that kind of stuff, I don't really know. But they do. So we're just going to follow it because hopefully that'll make it easier for people to understand. So it's broken down into the sections right here. You can all read these. But if you take your mouse and put it over any one of the sections and click, boom, you're going to jump right back down there. And guess what? You all know how to do that because that's one of the things that we just talked about in the last chapter. All right, as far as setting those placeholders, as our author called them. As you can see right here, the objective is to learn the basics of Git with this tutorial. I wouldn't even say that. All right? I'd say that the objective is to be able to move stuff from a local machine to a Git server, which is called a push, and move things from, or I should say a BitBucket server, and move things from a BitBucket server to a local machine, which is known as a pull. That's what this is really about. There are many other ways of doing it than what's shown here. All right, I mean, I literally had my pick of tutorials. I went through quite a few of them. I thought this was the most straightforward one. When we get done, if you don't agree, then you're going to go out and you're going to look on your own and find something else. All right. Now, as it says, these are the commands that are going to be covered in here. You don't have to memorize these, but the idea is you can either go back to this, or you can go back to the git-scm.com source code management, which is the Git homepage, and you can look there. All right. Now, it says it assumes you're new to Git and the BitBucket cloud, and it assumes you've got Git installed and you have a BitBucket account. We all do. All right, so that's what they're assuming. So the first thing that we're going to do, and you have to realize this, we have our choice. We could go and start up a Git session on our machine. We know how to do that. We did that the other day. So we could go in there, we could create a folder, etc., do everything in the world we're supposed to do. All right? Or we can do it the other way. We could start in BitBucket. Start from there. There's actually a little less work when you do it that way. So that's what we're going to do. Again, is we're going to follow this. I'm not going to read this stuff about that you're a space station administrator. Again, fine, whatever. But some of the stuff they have in here is important. So these facts. You have access to all files on your local repository. Now that should make sense because it's your repository. All right? Second, you can view public repositories. So if you ever want anyone to be able to look at your stuff without a BitBucket account, it's okay, but then they'll have to have the URL for that repository. And if you say, what's that? You're going to see it in just a minute. All right? Third, each repository belongs either to a user account or to a team. Okay? If it's a user account, you own it. If it's a team, somebody administers it. It could be you. It could be somebody else on the team. All right? So if you're the owner, by default in here, you're the only one who can view it. You're the only one who can change it. You're the only one who can delete it. Now you can change that. We're going to look at all this stuff in just a minute. All right? On the other hand, if it belongs to a team, as mentioned, typically you will designate someone on the team as being the administrator, the admin person. And they will have the rights to do all those things. All right? A code project can be very simple, like we're going to do right now. And basically, for probably just about all your tenure here, this is what you're going to do, are simpler projects. Now, are we going to do anything where we actually work on a team? We might. I don't know. And in that case, you'd be able to share stuff back and forth. All right? Finally, as it says, each repository has a limit of 2 gigs. But the author says because there's a lot of system files and stuff that also get created, the author mentions that they recommend that you keep it to no larger than 1 gig. Now you might look at that and go, well, gig, that'll be plenty big. But on the other hand, think about already some of the stuff that we're working on with this Leave It at Home website. I contacted Tom this morning, and he's going to be sending more pictures. All right, ideally pick more pictures of more of the pets that he is sitting, walking, whatever, both alone and with him. And after a while, if you've got enough pictures, etc., you know that the size of a site can mushroom. It can get very big. So 1 gig can fill up pretty fast. All right. Okay. So as it says, initially, in just a minute, we're going to create a BitBucket repository. And it should make sense that really what a repository is, more than anything else, it's like creating a new folder. And you all know that if I do this, you know, again, I'm not trying to insult anyone's intelligence here, but I was just thinking about this. I got enough stuff open here, I guess. All right, and a messy enough desktop. We're going to create our own repos folder in just a minute. All right, and don't worry about it. We will do it in just a minute. But you all know that if we come in here, and if we right mouse click and we choose new folder, boom, we get new folder. And if I double click on that, it's going to say it's empty. You all know that. And basically, since a new repository is like a new folder, it's empty when you create it. All right. So it says this BitBucket repository will be the central repository for your files. All right. It says that means that others can access it if you give them permission. We're not going to do that. After creating a repository, you're going to make a copy to your local system. We are going to do that. All right. I'm not going to totally follow the steps that they do, but I will as much as I can. All right. They're going to have pictures like this throughout. They're very amateurish drawings. And what they're showing here is, again, when you send it from your machine, when the arrow goes this way, it's a push. When you're going from the BitBucket server back to your local machine, that's a pull. All right, nothing new there. I've already mentioned that to you. So it says, do the following to create your repository. So for being in BitBucket here, all right, it says from BitBucket, click the plus sign on the global sidebar and select repository. All right. You may have to, I did, click right here. All right. Then we get the plus right here. All right. And we want to choose repository. Did I do that too fast? All right. And again, when I say this, I've gotten emails from at least one person in here like, we're not stupid. I don't think any of you are stupid. But as you're learning this stuff, I don't want to go too fast. That's all. All right. So it comes up here with this, dialog that you see right here. All right. So it says select repository. We did that. BitBucket displays the create a new repository dialog or a new page. Take some time, it says, to review the contents. With the exception of the repository type, everything that you enter on this page you can change later. What does that mean? That means if you do screw up, you can always go back and change it. And if you look on here and you say there is no repository type, that's under advanced settings. All right? So it says we want to call this BitBucket station locations for the name field. Again, kind of a screwy name, but that's what they want you to use. Get used to creating these names without any spaces in them. So if you want to run two words together, either run them together like I did, or I know that it takes underscores, bless you, and it may take hyphens as well. I don't know. I don't remember. So this is the name. You get that because it does have a spell check in there. All right, that's why it's underlined. All right. Now, notice that we've got two checks, or a checkbox here. We want that to be checked. All right. If you leave it unchecked, then anything that you put into that repository, other people can see. We don't want that. We want to leave it private. Include a README. That's always up to you. It depends on the complexity of the project. We're doing a fairly simplistic tutorial here, so we'll leave that blank. All right. Under version control, two of the more popular source control management systems are Git and Mercurial. We're using Git. That's the only one that we're using. If we start using it and you think, I don't like this, you want to look at Mercurial, that's your call. Now, if you look right here, if I click Advanced Settings, notice what they have. You can put a description in there. You can talk about forking, which we're not going to get into right now. As it says, we can set up issue tracking. we can set up wikis, and we can come in and we'll do this later, right? Not right now, but you can select the language. It'll say one of the choices in there is HTML. So you can let the system know the type of file that you're working with. All right? And I've never done anything with HipChat, not going to lie to you, so I don't know what that does. So if you've got this BitBucket station locations, just click the button, please, that says Create Repository. All right? And what you should notice if you look up on the top in your address bar, it should be bitbucket.org/ your login name / bitbucket station locations / source. This is what's referred to as the overview page right here. All right? And if you look, I'm asking this right now. Does everybody's right here, I'm asking you this, does everybody's right there say HTTPS? Yep. Is there anyone's that does not? What does yours say? Right here? Yeah. Because the only two things it should say are HTTPS or SSH. Yeah, you're at 50. Okay, get away from the master. Click on the end user status bar and just back up so you just get source. What? I've never seen it. Yes, sir. Well, we're going to find out real fast whether or not that's going to matter. How's that? This is what we want, where it says Git Clone, and evidently you guys don't have that. All right? Yes?
If you click the clone in the top right corner of the heart, it pops up with that.
All right. If you click clone,
it's not on yours.
It's not on my screen. All right. They have you. Do you have? Let's go over to master. Let's look there. All right. Well, mine doesn't even go there. Nope. When you click this button, all right, or when you see this, all right, what that is going to do is literally take a copy of everything that you have inside of this folder, this repository, and it's going to copy it. Now, it's empty right now, but even if there were thousands of files in there, it would do that. Does that make sense to everyone? All right. The reason that that's important is, suppose for a moment we were working on a project as an entire class, all right, and you wanted a copy of the latest and greatest thing that was out on the server. This is how you could do it, all right? So before we go on, though, just so you know, okay, as it says, that's the name field. There you go. For access level, we already said we're going to leave it as this is a private repository. Again, it's only visible to you and those you give access to. The only person I wish for you to give access to, besides yourselves, of course, is me. All right? And my hope is by the time we do our next test that everybody's going to be able to set that up and put it out there. Then there's no worries about did I get the email from you or not. I know he's not here right now, but Tom has had problems with his email. He's emailed stuff to me. He showed it to me. I just never got it. He had to send one thing to me 3 times. I don't know why. We have not had problems like that before. But I've got one of my second-year students, Andrew, who's run through the same problem. A couple times he sent me things and I just haven't gotten them. But if you put them out onto your BitBucket out onto a repository out there and you give me access, that shouldn't be an issue. All right. All right. As we said, pick Git for the repository type. We already did all that. Okay. So when you click commits, it says you'll find that you have no commits because there's nothing in there. Since the folder is empty, there's nothing to commit. Now, you don't have to do that, but just so you see this, if we look at the stuff that's right here, for lack of better words, this is kind of like a message board. So we could click here, but we have no source yet. So there wouldn't be anything to put in there. We could click here, and that's what they tell you to do, but it comes back and it says you don't have any commits. There's nothing to commit because you haven't done anything yet. We have no branches. We have no pull requests. We have no pipelines. We haven't done anything. So since we haven't done anything yet, all right, there's nothing for it to show. And that's what it's telling us. All right.
Is this the repository we're going to be using for the rest of the school year?
No, this repository, this is a temporary copy we're using for here. What we are going to do in just a minute is we're going to go back to our desktop and we're going to make a repos folder, R-E-P-O-S. That is where I think you should put every repository that you either create or you clone, put it in there, then move it back and forth between BitBucket and that. That's the recommendation. All right. So now that you have a place to add and share your space station, you need a way to get it from the local system. As it says, to set that up, you want to make a copy of your BitBucket to your local machine, which Git refers to as cloning. Again, notice what it says. When you clone, you create a connection. And that is what we want. One thing to realize, and it sounds almost weird, but it's the way that Git works, is Git is what is referred to as a snapshotting system. So for lack of better words, it's as though it's literally sitting there with a camera taking a picture of everything that you've got in your repository. And it's moving that back and forth. All right? So it says you are about to use a whole bunch of Git and non-Git commands from the terminal. If you've never used the command line before, it says learn where to find it at the Git command line crash course. I couldn't find that. I did find out on YouTube there was about a 30-minute long thing that was called Git command line crash course. I don't know if that's what they were referring to or not. All right. So it says open a browser and a terminal window from your desktop. We can do that, all right, but I think that what I'm going to show you is easier. So what I'd like you to do, and just give me a second, I've got so much garbage here, I just want to grab all this and remove it so it's, if you're looking at my desktop, hopefully it's not going to confuse you any more than it has to. All right, that's a little better at least. So I already have something called repos, and it says I've got something open. I don't know what it is, but I'd like you to right mouse click on your desktop, choose new, choose folder, and yours call repos. There's nothing big about repos. Repo is just short for repository. That's all. All right, but I'm going to call mine repos too. You don't have to do that because I've already got a repos. All right. So after you've done that, you've got this folder here. I'm just going to put mine way over here so you can see it when I work on it. Now, what they tell you to do in the book, and you can do that, is they tell you that you should just right mouse click basically on your desktop, go to Git bash here, and then they give you commands where you will create that folder, and then you'll move to it. You can do it that way too. All right. But what I'm going to do is now that I've got this repos folder, I'm going to double click on it, and I'd like you to, and then right mouse click and choose Git bash here. Again, you can use the mouse wheel if you want. You can make this bigger, you can make the text bigger. You want to do that. All right. So we've done the equivalent of this, the make door, etc., and moving there. We've done all that. Then it says from BitBucket, go to your BitBucket stations, locations, repository. You've already got that. All right? And I'm hoping everybody has this Git Clone thing that's right here, because that's what they're talking about next. So the author says it displays a pop-up with a clone dialog. By default, it says it should set it to HTTPS, which is Hypertext Transfer Protocol Secured, or SSH, which is Secured Socket Handler, I think it is. All right, the recommendation is, it says, for the purposes of the tutorial, don't change your default, but it should always come in as HTTPS. All right, so copy the clone command. So take your mouse, put it on there, however you highlight everything, Control A, Control C, whatever you do. But I want that to be highlighted and then copied to your clipboard. Any questions on that? Anybody with any problems with that? Then switch back to here. Make sure I'm not skipping any steps. I don't think I am. Now, you can right mouse click then and choose paste. And it's bringing it in. Let me tell you, when I did mine yesterday and I hit enter, it came up right away with an error. And it's not an error. But what it's requiring me to do is every time I do an operation where I'm either grabbing something from BitBucket or sending something to BitBucket, it makes me give my password. Okay? So if you've got that in, hit enter. And it says it's cloning. And again, see what it says? This, maybe yours will say this, maybe it will not. But this is what mine kept doing. If yours just goes all the way through and doesn't give you an error, great. All right, so it's asked for my password. Hope I typed it incorrect. I'm going to click OK. Okay. And notice it's even telling me, it says, hey, just so you know, you appear to have cloned an empty repository. It's just letting you know, hey, we did it, but there's nothing in there. All right, it's just letting you know that. All right, so if you want to verify that there's something in there, you can type in, and this is an actual Linux or Unix command, you can type in ls here and hit enter, and it should show you BitBucket station locations. Okay, not like that's wow, but just so you know, it is telling you that it went through the cloning operation. And if you look right now, there it is. Whoops, there it is. And it's got a .git folder in it. All right. Now, the reason that I decided to go through this particular tutorial and do it like this is we don't have to come in and do git init and some of the other stuff we talked about before. It initialized the session for us. All right. So, no, I didn't get a Windows password error. All right, I just got a different error. All right, so they tell you if you get that. Then it says, at this point, your window should look like this. And as the author says, when you look on here, there's a bunch more. Okay, but it is warning you that it's empty, and it says, well, it was empty, right? Yeah. So we typed in ls and we listed the, and it showed us fine. So what have we done so far? We did a clone. We did our first git command from the server. We copied, in this case, just an empty folder, but we copied an empty repository from the server to our local machine. And again, you saw, based on what we had in there, should probably be still right here. At least in my case, so that was the command that I put in. All right. Git clone, then the path, all right, all the way to the BitBucket repository. And the name of that repository we created .git. All right. Step 2. Add a file to your local repository and then put it on BitBucket. Listen to that text. Add a file to your local repository, which means we're going to add it right where we are on our desktop. After we add it on our desktop, we will then push it out to BitBucket. Does that make sense? All right. Now, why they chose to do it like this, I don't know, but that's fine. It says go to your window and go to the top level. We're already there. Then it says enter the following line. So if you would please enter this line that you see in blue. Whoops. Echo space double quote earth apostrophe s space moon double quote space greater than space locations.txt. All right. Just grab that line, copy it, type it in yourselves, whatever. Then we're going to go here and just paste it in or type it in there. That's where I want you to type it in. And then when you get done, hit enter. Almost always in here, when you do simple commands like that, if you get nothing back, so when you hit enter and all you get back is your prompt, it's succeeded. All right?
It just gave me a new line saying anything you did.
Well, when you type this in, did you type it in here?
Yeah.
And you just hit enter. Then I would double check and make sure that you typed it correctly, that you didn't miss anything. Because literally what this says, this is a Linux command. It says grab the text Earth's moon, echo it to the keyboard, but rather than the keyboard, redirect it to a file called locations.txt. All right? And if you're still having problems, I don't know what it is, we'll look at it during the break. All right, because we're going to take a break in just a few minutes. Anybody else have that it didn't work? All right. Now, if you look, let's see. Now notice if I do another ls, it's showing that I've got that file in there. All right, and again, this so far I'd say, wow, Jeff, this is even worse than the first day of class because we haven't really done very much. All right. But the point is, we went in, we created a repository on a server, we cloned it and copied it to our own machine. Now we're taking that in our own machine and we're putting a file in there. All right. So as it says, if the command line doesn't return anything, you created it successfully. Now, it says the next thing they want us to do is run the command git space status and hit enter. Well, that's interesting. Fatal not a Git repository. Oh. Wow, how did I move from there? Okay. CD BitBucket station locations. Okay, I've got to come back and recreate that file. Okay, I was not there. Remember at the beginning it said go there. I thought I was there and I wasn't. Are you there? When you've got your path here, does it say desktop, your repo, BitBucket station locations?
After that, it just starts a new line like it doesn't say anything.
No, but okay, all right. Yeah, we should have created that. Now, and that's on me, but if you look on the screen here, they did say first to go to the top level of the repository, which meant go to that particular folder. Okay, if you didn't do it, it's not a big thing. Just do it now. Just type in CD. All right, and if you're in the repos folder, or you should be able to type in this. Don't ever type in the $sign. That's just the command prompt. Just type that in. It's funny, when I did it yesterday, I was there already. That's why I made the error right now. So then after you do that, then go back in and then key in that line again to echo that. After you've done that, type in Git Status, as it says, that tells you about how the project is progressing. It actually tells you more than that. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. So now I'm going to type in Git Status. All right. Now, what this shows me right now is that I have a single file called location.txt. All right. And when you are working in Git, you're in one of three modes, stages, or whatever. All right. Your files are either ready to be staged, or they're staged, or they've been committed. You're in one of those, everything that's in there is in one of those three stages. All right? And the first one there that says ready to be staged, what happens when we go in and we do a git add is it moves it from level 1 here to level 2. It has not yet been committed, but when a file or files or folders or whatever, when they're staged, they're ready to be committed. Then when you run the commit command, you go from stage 2 to stage 3. You can still remove things after they've been committed. You can decommit, so to speak. All right? The other thing to realize here, if you all look up on the screen, you notice at the end of each one of these, here where we have our prompt, it says master. Can everybody see that? Right now, all we have is a master level. That's kind of like right now, we have just that root folder, basically. We have that BitBucket space stations. All right. Later, we're going to do what's called fork this. And then you're going to see that instead of master, it's going to say something else. All right. We'll hold off on that for just a bit. All right. It says get the status. As it says, again, the Git Status command tells you about how your project is progressing. At this point, Git is aware you've created a new file, and you'll see something like this. All right. It says the file is untracked, meaning that it has not yet been committed. But before it can be committed, the file, usually the way you do it is you stage it. All right. So, as it says, it's not part of a previous commit. It also shows that the next step is to add the file. All right, so it's telling you that you can do that. So, it says, tell Git to add your new locations.txt using the git add command. So if you would please, type in the command again that you see in blue, which is saying, again, from what I showed you on the picture before, move it from stage 1 to stage 2. So where it's not tracked or staged, move it to the staging area. As it says, it moves the changes from the working directory to the Git changing area. This is where you will prepare a snapshot of a set of changes before committing them to your official history. All right, so it's git space, add space, locations.txt. So I'm going to go and do the same. So I'm going to right mouse click, just paste it in there, hit enter. All right, now you may or may not remember this, but when we first went in and we installed Git, we had that one thing where we were doing different settings, and one thing we talked about replacing all LFs with CRLFs. That's what they're talking about right here. And the main thing is, this is all powered by, for lack of better words, Linux. And they use line feeds. All right? We're using Windows, which uses carriage return line feeds. So it's telling us it's going to replace LFs with CRLFs. All right? It's no big thing, but it's a warning. It's letting you know. And sometimes, especially when you do things kind of cross operating system, you'll get things like that. All right? It's almost like, imagine if we were going from one language to the other. I don't know if you've ever done this, but there are, I know some Spanish. I had it in high school and in college. That was eons ago. But the point is, there are things out there there is software out there where I can type in a paragraph in English, hit a button, and it'll send it to Spanish. That's no guarantee that it's 100%. All right, everything was exactly correct, and that's pretty much what we're saying here. All right, so as it says, the git add command moves changes from the working directory to the git staging area. Again, that's where you prepare the snapshot. So now if we come in and type in git status, before I hit enter, again, look up on here. It said when I did the git status, it said no commits yet, and I had untracked files. Now when I do git status, it looks different. The colors of the file there changed from red to green. Now, if I changed my mind right now and didn't want that file here anymore, as it says, I could type git space rm space minus cached and then the name of the file. If I had a ton of files, all right, I could just put git space remove space minus cache space dot, and it would remove everything that's currently staged. All right, it's a wild card. We're not worried about that right now, but I'm just trying to run through some of this stuff here with you. All right. All right. So as it says, now that it's been staged, it can be committed. The git status command displays the state of the working directory. Yeah. Now we can do a git commit. You may remember this from the other day. You may not. But this is the command I do want you to put in, please, is the one in blue. Now, before you even start typing, look at it. It's git space commit. Means we're doing a commit. If you don't put -m with a comment, it pushes you into a weird Linux editor. You don't want that, because it's just a pain in the butt. You got to remember :WQ, and you got to save, and it's just a pain. So if you say git space commit space -m and you put a comment in there, two things are going to happen after you hit enter. If you look at the screen, the first thing is it's going to end up giving you a number. And you might say, that's not a number. Yes, it is. It's a hexadecimal number. It's going to give you a number that's an ID associated with what you just did. All right? That's the first thing. And the second thing is it'll show you your comment over here. Every time you do a commit, whether you're pushing, pulling, whatever, whether you're on BitBucket, whether you're on your local machine, you should always put in a comment. All right? So I'm going to, I've just been copying this because I've got it in front of me. So git commit -m. The M is for message, so you know. And usually the first time you commit, that's the message you give, initial commit. So I hit enter, and it's telling me what? Well, it says to the master, I did this initial commit. There's the number associated with it. I have one file that I changed and inserted. This, people find this confusing, all right? But this is actually 3 sets of numbers. These two, and these two. It's not red, green, blue like we talked about, but it's when you work with the Unix operating system, it's basically how you end up showing file access rights. This is called your rights, which means in this case you can do everything. This is your group's rights. And this one is what's called the world's rights. Now, you might say, do I have to know that? No, but I just wanted you to have an idea when you see this stuff out here, what the stuff means. That's all. So, as it says, the git commit takes the stage snapshot and commits it to the project history. Combined with git add, it defines what's called the workflow. So that's what we've done, is we've gone through a workflow. All right? I'm going to go through a little bit on what's here, and then we're taking a break. It says, up to this point, everything you have done It's been on your local machine, and it's invisible to the BitBucket repository. The only thing the BitBucket repository has in it is that empty repository. You already saw that. That's what we cloned. All right? It says until we push, meaning from the local machine to BitBucket, and that's what we're going to do after the break. So it says learn a bit more here about Git and remote repositories. Number one, Git's ability to communicate with remote repositories that's basically why people use it. More and more work that's being done in the IT, information technology world, is being done by people in teams. And you need a way when you're working in teams to, what this does is it versions your software, and when people do what's called check it out, that we'll see after the break, and when they come in and they make changes, it tracks who's made those changes. So if I were to check this out, if we were all working on it and I checked it out and I hosed it up, they'd be able to go back and say, hey, Jeff's the one who hosed it up. All right. Second, Git's collaboration model gives every developer their own copy of the repository, complete with its own local history. So if you do what's called branch and you create a fork, all right, if there were 10 of us in here and we were all working on the same project, we'd each get our own copy. That's what I'm telling you. We'll look at that part of it later. All right. Next, you manage connections with other repositories and publish local history, as I already said, by pushing branches to other repositories. It says you see what others have contributed because you pull from the server, you push to the server. That's exactly what they're saying here. So before we do this and go back to our local terminal window, all right, we're making progress, but it's 8:57. I have no idea with Chris how long this is going to take, so you're going to get a nice healthy break. Let's come back, please, at 9:15.